Welcome to Break the Cycle with Bethany Dotson, the podcast for high achieving professional women who struggle with codependency, attracting emotionally unavailable partners, and who repeat dysfunctional patterns in love. I'm your host, Bethany Dotson, and if you want to learn more about how to break your cycle in love, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and be the first to know when a new episode drops. I'll see you inside.
I want to talk to you today about whether or not you're viewing your ex, specifically your most recent toxic ex, the ex that may have been the worst out of them all, even after all the hard work that you've done on yourself, even after all of the years of therapy you've done on yourself, even after the time you took off dating to work on yourself and focus on your career. Are you viewing this person as the greatest gift to your life? Or are you still stuck in viewing this person as, why did this happen to me? What's wrong with me? And I'm going to talk to you today about three traps that are stopping you from moving forward, way forward, and transforming the trauma that you've been through with your most recent relationship really into the greatest gift in your life and transforming your life and ultimately leading you to attracting a healthy romantic relationship. So, without further ado, the first trap that I see people falling into, especially women who have codependent traits, is being a control-oholic or a fixer, continuing to be the controlling person in her life after she leaves that relationship. And there are a number of ways that this might be showing up for you if this resonates for you. So you could be using unhealthy coping to get through the day. So 90% of the people that I work with are addicted to avoiding their emotions. They're addicted to avoiding their feelings. And that means ignoring red flags in a relationship. That means ignoring the writing on the wall that this is going to end soon. That means avoiding making decisions and putting yourself in uncomfortable positions. And if you did that in your relationship, you may be continuing to avoid your own uncomfortable feelings by being a workaholic or by staying chronically busy. And when you try to control your life in such a way that you don't give yourself any breathing room, nothing really changes for you on the inside. The other way that being a controlaholic might show up for you in a weird way is staying in dysfunctional job environments or work environments where you don't feel satisfied and telling yourself the story, if I were to make some changes or if I were to take a risk, this would be too jeopardizing for me. I can't risk that. I can't put my neck out on the line. And this often comes from being so defeated internally or so doubtful internally because of the narcissistic trauma that you keep yourself in a holding pattern. And unfortunately, that holding pattern, trying to control your environment, causes you to continue feeling like a victim. I'll talk about the victim thing in just a second. The other common way I see people, you might be controlling your environment to create some kind of safety, is by isolating yourself, by not having a social network, by only hanging out with a certain set of friends or a certain group of friends, or maybe realizing that these friends that I'm hanging out with, I don't really have anything in common with anymore. I feel bad when I'm hanging around them, but you continue to do it anyway because it's what you know. So when you are controlling, and by the way, if you ignored a lot of red flags, and if you try to convince your ex to go to therapy and you hope that he would change and you gave him like 9,000 chances, that is controlling behavior. You might have thought your ex was controlling, but if you continuously ignored your own intuition and you saw the writing on the wall and yet you stayed in a bad relationship with your eyes wide open, hoping that would work, you in your own way are manipulative. And I know that might be hard to hear, and I'm not meaning to say that in a really bad or judgmental way, but in order to change and truly change, especially if this is a lifelong pattern for you, we have to take responsibility for our own toxic traits, right? Too often, more often than I would like to admit, I get on the phone with women who every third sentence is about what her ex did to her. Every third. And this is a normal progression in healing. It's very normal to feel victimized by what your ex did to you. But I'm going to be the first person to tell you, if you haven't heard it already from a therapist, you're never going to change if that continues to be your story. And sadly, I talk to a lot of women, a lot of really smart, high achieving, successful women who are really good in their careers, and they've spent 10 or more years in therapy, and they're still complaining about, yes, thank you, Christina. They're still complaining about what their ex did to them or what happened to their childhood, and they're not seeing results. They feel good in that session, but then they go out and get on a dating app or go out and date somebody. And again, it turns out to be another emotionally unavailable person. So when you are controlling your environment, you're basically reliving past programmed behavior and putting it over here on your future. And no amount of playing it safe in your life by isolating yourself from social connections, by not going after that dream job or not going after or dating again because you're too afraid of what could happen in the future. No amount of playing it safe will truly heal your trauma. In fact, it often makes it worse because when you have emotional trauma, narcissistic trauma, relational trauma, trauma that happens in the container of an intimate relationship, it shortens your window of tolerance to stress in your life, to triggers, to rejection, to abandonment. So you start to live very enclosed in a tight little box. And you might do hobbies, you might move, you might get another job, you might do all these things, but internally you still feel like this. So that's if you're controlling, please understand that in order to break through that controlling, you need to, number one, work a trauma informed pattern, a method consistently. And number two, take responsibility. Number three, have some kind of accountability. I'll get to that in a little bit. The second thing that might be keeping you trapped in avoiding seeing your ex or prolonging seeing your ex as the gift, the greatest gift, your greatest catalyst to your healing, is that you're very busy. This kind of goes back to being a controlaholic. You're very busy trying to rearrange the external part of your life. So I see a lot of this in women that I work with. They get out of a bad relationship or they exit a very long toxic marriage. They move, they buy the new house, they get the new position, they get the promotion, they buy the new car, they take the trips to Costa Rica, they join the women's meetup groups, they join a knitting club, they join a book club, they get on 4 different dating apps, they go on a bunch of dates, and they still feel unhappy. They still feel miserable. They still feel like something's wrong with them. No amount of achieving makes that feeling go away. And in fact, the achieving in itself becomes an addiction, like she was addicted possibly to her ex. So if you find that you're rearranging a lot of external things or you're trying to seek happiness by changing something out here in your life, that it's always going to lead back to that feeling of something's wrong with me, I'm not enough. And the key here is learning to reprogram. It's usually a very deeply ingrained subconscious belief of something's wrong with me, I'm not enough, something that you picked up long before you had any brain skills to discern your environment in your childhood. So when you have the I'm not enough or I'm unlovable, something's wrong with me, you may be prone, especially to being very achievement oriented, to checking things off the list, to being a perfectionist, to wanting people to like you. And if you continue to try to heal by rearranging things on the outside of your life, you're going to continue to run into disappointment. And unfortunately, I see this a lot in women who, especially are in midlife, they're 40, 50, 60. They feel like they've had so much failure in the past and they continue to feel internally like a failure that they have this very complacent, numb attitude. What's the point? Why should I even bother? Relationships, I always screw them up. I have a broken picker. Why even bother to do that? That complacency is the is like a dangerous, and the complacency in itself is a death sentence. If you're complacent, you feel like, what's the point now? You were already complacent, like in the relationship. You had to be complacent to stay in a toxic relationship. The second trap, just to quickly recap, if you are trying to rearrange your life externally, but you still feel like something's wrong with you are not truly healing that part of something's wrong with you. You're not truly healing the relational trauma. You're not reprogramming how you're thinking, how you're perceiving life, how your choice making, and you're not emotionally changing and elevating your emotional home. You may feel good when you buy something or feel good when you work 100 hours a week or feel good when you take a trip. But then when you get back into your regular life, it's like right back down into why is life so hard? Why can't I get it right? Why is this person having a great relationship and I'm not? So that's the second trap. The third trap that I find a lot of people unfortunately sticking with for a long time, longer than needed, is buying into the story that time heals all wounds. Now, there's some truth to this, right? So, if you broke up with your ex 5 years ago and he was super narcissistic, the chances are of you still feeling that searing, trauma bonded, addictive emotional pain is like zero to none, right? So, on some level, yes, the initial pain of that relationship is probably a lot less. However, time does not heal your trauma. Time does not heal the unconscious programming that causes you to be a magnetic match for emotionally unavailable people. In fact, time acts as a container for people to grow even more complacent, even more numb to the consequences of their choices. And as I said before, complacency in many ways is a death sentence. There are a lot of people that, you know, they live very high stress lifestyles and then it takes some type of medical trauma or big chaotic incident in their life to wake them up. If you had a narcissistic relationship, if you had a really toxic marriage and you hoped for years that it would work and it finally ended in divorce and you moved on at lightning speed, this could be the greatest catalyst of your life. How do I know? Because it happened to me. It's happened to a lot of my clients. And there are two types of people in this world: people that continue to bury their head in the sand and continue to tell the story of what my ex did to me. I've done all this therapy. It's still not working. I'm a hopeless case. And they get addicted, unfortunately, to the sob story of I'm never going to change, because at least that identity is something that they know. And if you want to have a healthy relationship, you want to have the healthiest relationship you've ever had with yourself, if you want to take your life to a level of success and fulfillment and deep inner happiness and contentment, please understand that that is way out in the unknown. And if you've spent many years in a control, trying to control the relationship, trying to get your partner to change, that's what is known to you. And if you want to have a truly emotionally intimate, healthy relationship, it's going to require you to do things that are hard, uncomfortable, but ultimately worth it in the long run. So, how do you do that? There are two main things that I highly suggest. Number one is working with somebody who is trauma informed. Therapist. So here's the difference between therapy and coaching. Therapy is a nice place to start if you're really in a lot of chaos. If you mean like you're having panic attacks every day, you have zero motivation, your work is suffering, your finances are suffering, your family life is suffering, you have no friends, you might be suicidal, having ideation of suicide. Therapy is a wonderful place to start, especially if you've never had any kind of professional treatment or professional support. If you have had a lot of therapy and you have logical understanding that, yes, this comes from my childhood. Yes, I know I'm the problem. Yes, I know I do it because I have anxious attachment disorder. You have all this logical understanding, but you're still not seeing tangible results in your life, you're still not seeing changes in your relationships, you're still feeling like something's wrong with you, coaching may be the key to get you over the hump. And I'm speaking from personal experience. It certainly was for me because coaching is focused on looking at you as a whole, complete person right now, even in spite of all the crap that you've been through, and giving you a plan to move forward and giving you the accountability. So, therapy and coaching, great. Okay. The other big important thing is that you want to make sure who you're working with is trauma informed. Why? Because you have trauma. And a lot of therapists, 80%, I think was the last statistic that I heard, are not trauma informed. They're going to continue to keep you talking about it and trying to gain clarity by talking and analyzing the past in the rearview mirror. And we know in research from the Heart Math Institute that continuing to analyze your past in the rearview mirror does not neurologically heal trauma. It actually reinforces the wiring in your brain associated with trauma because you're just continuing to fire and wire it, which then in turn causes your body to feel contracted, anxious, on edge. And you continue to fire and rewire the emotional settings in your body. And you get stuck on this negative feedback loop. So, coaching or therapy. If you've had a lot of therapy, you probably want to try coaching. Second, trauma informed. So, here in Break the Cycle, we give everybody, all of our clients, a proven method for rewiring their brain, how they're thinking, and their body, how they're feeling. So, trauma is a very much a mind body situation. So, if you have anxiety, if you're depressed, if you lack motivation, if you get easily triggered around social settings, if you feel insecure around yourself, all of this stuff can be rewired when you work a proven plan designed to get you out of that fight or flight response that you're automatically running every day and into a more restful, calm, confident, emotional state of being. And we give people somatic therapy protocols. So, this is evidence based for healing specifically complex or relational trauma and practicing that every single day. So, if you're like over 35, the brain wiring, your neurological programming is pretty much set in stone. And if you've had 35 or longer years of dysfunctional relationships, it's going to take you a minute to reprogram that. So we give people 90 days of this stuff every single day, continuing to fire and rewire new things. And over time, you start to see changes in your external environment because you are changing on the inside. A lot of people try to rearrange the outside of their lives, but they're still the same. Here, we actually change and shift your inner world from a deep psychological level. So, if that sounds like something you need and something that you're ready for and something that you're willing to commit and go all in on and be uncomfortable and be willing to be messy and be willing to look long and hard in the mirror at your own choices and be willing to make future choices and choices today that are going to stretch your comfort zone because you realize staying stuck is no longer an option for you, then I invite you to reach out. There's main way to reach out is by booking a free breakthrough call. I want to clarify who the breakthrough call is for, however, just to be really clear. So you're successful already in your life. You're stable in other life areas. You've got a great career. Your love life in your vision is like the one area where you continuously mess up. It's the one sore spot in your life. You continuously feel like a failure. Okay. So that's the first criteria. Second criteria, you're done with your ex. All right. You got to be like, I'm never going back. You're single, you're divorced, you're in the process of a divorce. You've already moved out of the house, you're already living separately. You are absolutely 100% done. If you're still hoping that maybe he'll change his mind, or if you like just called him or texted him yesterday, you have not yet made the decision. You have to have already made the decision. I'm completely done with my ex and I'm ready to move forward and I'm ready to transform this pattern. And then finally, prior therapy, we want to see that you've taken some initiative on your own to help yourself get better. Prior therapy is strongly preferred just because we are trauma informed. I'm not a therapist, I'm a coach, I'm a trauma sensitive somatic therapist and a yoga therapist, but I'm not a licensed clinician. So when we're working with trauma, we want to look at what have you already done? Do you have some kind of foundation built in your healing already? So if you meet those criteria and you're serious about seeing results and you're willing to get uncomfortable for a little while, because I'm gonna be honest, what you want is going to be in the unknown. And if you're ready to take that leap into the unknown and have the accountability, have the proven plan forward, have the support that you need when you want to go back into your hidey hole, then go to bethanydotson.com/talk. We'll have a very honest conversation about your patterns in relationships and most importantly about what you really want. Most people lack a lot of clarity around what they really, really want in their life because on a deep level, they don't believe they deserve it. So if you recognize you're sick and tired of living in that conflict, that internal conflict, I invite you to reach out and book a call and we will see if we can help you change your life, starting with changing the relationship with yourself, your thinking, and eventually attracting a healthy partner for you. Take care. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you for tuning in to today's show. A brand new episode drops each week. Be sure to click and subscribe. And remember, healing trauma, codependency, and your lifelong pattern in love does not happen by itself. You need expert guidance and evidence-based methods. And I've helped hundreds of incredible women from all over the country heal betrayal trauma and reclaim their confidence while falling wildly in love with their own lives and attracting healthy relationships. If you like what you heard today and you want to see if you're fit to work with us, go to bethanydotson.com/talk. That's bethanydotson.com/talk and book a call to speak with us today. We'll get on the phone for about 45 minutes and get you crystal clear on 3 things. The real reason you keep attracting dysfunctional relationships, even if you know better or even if you've done tons of work on yourself. What you really want in a relationship, how you want to feel emotionally every single day in your life, and what lifestyle changes you want to make. And then number 3, the exact strategy you need to be using to get there. Again, healing trust issues, codependency, and a lifelong pattern does not happen without expert guidance. We've helped hundreds of women across the country heal complex trauma, codependency, and have the healthiest relationships ever, both with themselves and with others. Go to bethanydotson.com/talk to book your call today. I'll see you on the next episode.